for the Indians. 1 run on, let's see, 1 hit. That's all. We got 1 goddamn hit.
You can't say goddamn on the air.
Don't worry, nobody's listening anyway.
From the Gateway Lounge in Sioux Falls, it's Nobody's Listening Anyway. Here are your hosts, John Gaskins and Matt Zimmer.
Hey, happy hour from the Orion Pub, downtown Sioux Falls. We are not at the normal place today, but Matt Zimmer is here with me. We're kind of doing a switch around. Trent Singer's on vacation. It's the summer. Things get weird, so Zim and I were in Lincoln at Haymarket Park last week, and now we're at the Orion Pub in downtown Sioux Falls, a place I would call a Matt Zimmer kind of place.
I was just here like 3 days ago.
Were you? Yeah. Good place to. What do you like about the Orion Pub?
Well, what I don't like about it is trying to park my truck downtown. But other than that, no, perfect dive bar vibe. Been here several times.
Yep. Got the Budweiser in the can. I've got the Coors Light on tap. We've got Jackrabbits and Coyotes beginning practice next week. So
I know.
Media days last week. They start practice next week. And so, yeah, we're rip-roaring into football. Kalen DeBoer didn't have much to say at SEC Media Days, but enough for Paul Feinbaum to go nuclear. So we'll talk about South Dakota's native SEC son and where both Alabama and the other native son, Josh Heupel in Tennessee, are picked in the SEC preseason poll. By the way, the Jackrabbits football team, all of them are going to be at the Canaries game tomorrow night. They're a little trip to Sioux Falls, a little
SDSU night.
Team building activity. I don't think it is. It isn't. It's not an official SDSU night
just
or
like a
promotion.
deal they're doing.
Like Dan Jackson's just taking the whole team down. Thought it'd be fun with the guys. Saw the USD women's basketball team. They had a suite last night at the old ballpark. So we got the Twins on right now at the Orion Pub, which is a great place to come if you're a serious or casual Twins fan. They actually will have the games on when they're on with the sound of the games. If it's a Twins or Vikings and usually Wolves game, they're going to have it and treat this like a Minnesota sports bar here in downtown Sioux Falls. So if you work downtown or live downtown, just walk on over here when the Twins are on. They're not doing well so far after the All-Star break. They had lost 4 in a row before they beat the Guardians last night 10-6. Right now they're trying to they're scrounging in a 1-0 game in the 6th inning to split the series. But here we are, same old for the Twins in that little weird spot before the trade deadline.
Yeah, they've been just good enough to not want to really, go full fire sale like they did last year, but it's hard to look at them as a real serious contender, especially when they, go to Cleveland and, lose those first 2. It's kind of like, oh, here we go. But they won last night. They win tonight. There's still a few games left. I think they got 7 more till the deadline, maybe even more than that, maybe 9 or 10. But they got to do it now, because Ryan Jeffers is batting right now. I mean, might be one of the most attractive hitters on the market. He's a pending free agent. Joe Ryan, obviously, he's got an option, so that makes him even more attractive. Are the Twins really going to try and re-sign him, knowing what it costs to sign a frontline starting pitcher? I don't envy him. That's a tough decision. As a fan, my heart says, go for it. Go out and be, not just don't sell, but buy. Go out and try and add some pieces. You got a pretty well-stocked farm system. Go out and get a couple pieces, and maybe you can make a run at a wild card and do something. But, my sports writer brain tells me this isn't a contending team.
Right.
Cash in Joe Ryan and Ryan Jeffers for whatever you can get.
But the thing is, there's a decent chance, they get the A's and the Royals back at home if they do what they're supposed to do against 2 of the worst teams
Bobby
in
Witt's
baseball.
out for the Royals, so
Yeah, I mean, the Royals have the worst record in baseball. The A's aren't far behind. So you come back to Target Field. Say they split today, that would help, I guess.
Right.
But it's a 162-game season, so you can't live and die by every game. But if they split the Indians, it's an okay sign. Losing 2 out of 3 to the Cubs is not the end of the world. They're one of the better teams in the entire league. The way they did it was teeth gnashing, but for the record, you lose 2 out of 3. I think people would have predicted that. You split 2 out of 4 in Cleveland, a team of equal strength. That ain't bad. You take care of business against Oakland and Kansas City, and then you might move up the ladder a bit more. At the moment, as we record on Thursday, they're 3 back in the last wild card spot. They're 5 back in the division. But as you said, it doesn't feel like a team that should be in a spot that really go out and put the pedal to the metal to contend. But again, they could win some games closer to the trade deadline. Then they'll have the Mariners, a team of equal strength, and it might depend on where you are in the standings to go, I guess so. We're going to look like a bunch of cheap assholes again if they're within a couple games of the wild card and they do nothing or even sell.
Well, it's an interesting situation, particularly for Tom Pohlad, who has taken over as the primary, owner, the primary face of the franchise.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still the Pohlad family, but when Tom kind of replaced Joe as the main guy, he really kind of came out swinging and saying all the right things about, we get why the fans are mad, we've let you down, we've made mistakes, we have to win the fans back. Regardless of how good you think the Twins really are or how realistic you think their chances of actually competing are, this is kind of a perfect put up or shut up kind of moment for Tom Pohlad. And there's two ways he can look at that. You can look at that as almost sort of a golden opportunity. Most people thought this team was not going to be anywhere close to contention, so it would be pretty easy for the Twins at this point if they were 15 games out of the playoffs, just go, well, yeah, we're going to trade guys off. We're not in contention anyway. That doesn't mean we're not trying to win. It just means we're being realistic. Now you're in contention. You're better than you thought you were going. And to Tom Pohlad's credit, he was a guy who said before the season, I think this team can compete. Everyone said, yeah, whatever, buddy. Well, now here they are. Yeah. And he's been saying all these things about we've got to prove to the fans we're serious. We've got to show the fans we can invest. We've got to spend money. Well, this is a perfect opportunity to do it. Even if deep down he doesn't think that's the right move, even if he and Jeremy Zoll, the GM, think the best move is to trade Joe Ryan, trade Ryan Jeffers, not make a serious run here, that it could go a long way towards winning the fans over, towards saying, see, I meant what I said. If they hold on to Joe Ryan, if they hold on to Ryan Jeffers, and then, like I said, in addition to that, go out and maybe try and acquire a starting pitcher, acquire a bullpen arm or two or a bat or whatever. And then, even if it doesn't pan out and you don't get a wild card spot or whatever happens, okay, you went for it. You went out and got some guys. You showed the fans, hey, we're turning over a new leaf here. We're serious about trying to win. I think you could make an argument that the benefits of that would outweigh the benefits of trading Joe Ryan and Ryan Jeffers for whatever prospect capital you're going to get for him. So, I don't know, maybe I just answered my own question. Maybe that is what they should do.
Well,
because it will be tempting and defensible to trade those guys and say, hey, it just makes too much sense to get what we can for these guys.
Which of those two do you think, if it's one of them, would make more sense to trade, and or which one, both as a fan and someone who wants the Twins to maximize their potential, that you feel like you need to keep?
I mean, Ryan will probably bring back more. He's basically an ace caliber starting pitcher, 2-time All-Star. He's still young, and like I said, I think he has an option for next year. So in theory, it's not just a rental. Ryan Jeffers is one of the best two-way catchers in baseball. He's really good. And I don't know, like I said earlier, if you're going to try to re-sign Joe Ryan, you've got the option for next year, but then beyond that, you're probably looking at $20-30 million a year. The Twins generally don't spend that, especially on starting pitchers because they're so injury prone, whatever. How much does a starting all-star caliber catcher cost these days? I don't know. The difference is Jeffers is a free agent after this year, so he's kind of a rental. So I don't know how much you'll get for him. I don't know how serious the Twins are about re-signing him. They have some catchers in their minor league system, but none of them are ready to go, knocking on the door. They have Vic Caratini. They have Alex Jackson. Those guys have been pretty good, but I don't know. I don't have a good answer to that question. And the thing is, it's not just those two. If they do decide we're going to be sellers, Josh Bell is a veteran bat who I'm sure some team would be happy to have. You're not going to get much for him. Cody Clemens has turned into a really nice player, but they have so many infield, outfield guys knocking on the door coming up. Is he expendable? Trevor Larnach is having the best year of his career. You might be able to get something for him. Again, these are not easy decisions. Right. I think maybe the path of least resistance is just say sort of, let's just ride it out with what we got, but it would be tempting to at least, let's put it this way, you have to at least listen, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if the Dodgers or the Yankees or somebody throws 3 of their top 10 prospects at you for Joe Ryan, then you kind of almost have to do that.
Yeah, you do. And you still might be able to perform and be in contention down the stretch, even if that happened.
Maybe, you know.
And by the way, in the short term, if you lose, say, 4 out of 6, I don't know if they're playing 6 or 7 against the A's and Royals combined, but it's, you know, if you lose 3 out of 6 or 7 or 4, well, then you're probably falling further backwards, and it's probably a sign. Okay, we're losing to bad teams, or you get swept by the Mariners, something like that. I mean, a lot could happen that might make things a lot easier the closer to the deadline we get. But it's fun to talk about right now. Is it a fun team to watch right now? FUN. I mean, they score a lot of runs still, most of the time.
Not today. I got 2 hits through 6 innings.
10 last night. You know.
Yeah, I think they've been a fun
you like
team to
watching
watch.
them?
I
Okay.
do. You know, the pitching's been better. You know, Byron Buxton obviously is kind of a worth the price of admission guy. But like I said, Jeffers, Larnach, Brooks Lee's turned into a pretty good player. Royce Lewis has been much better since he came back. You know, it's weird. Like we talked about last week, it's this sort of us against the world, sort of like the major league team. That's going to be gone if it's fair. Looks like it's foul.
Oh, Hoskins for Cleveland. Yeah, he hit a couple the other night.
Yeah.
All right, still 1-0 in the 7th.
I've enjoyed watching them all year, and I will continue to watch them whether they have a fire sale or whether they go for it or whatever.
Some likable guys.
It is.
Yeah.
And I think Derek Shelton's done a really good job.
Yeah.
I liked Rocco. I was never an anti-Rocco guy, but I was perfectly fine with them moving on when they did. And I actually thought Derek Shelton was kind of an uninspired choice.
Of course.
Just because it kind of seemed like, well, this is just another – I mean, he had been on the staff under Rocco before. It's like, are we just, you know, kind of retreading the same guys over and over again? But he has been different than Rocco. I think he's done a nice job of sort of managing the expectations of this team and understanding exactly what he was getting into with the ownership situation and how the fans felt about this team. And he's threaded that needle really nicely. I think he's done a good job.
How does he handle the games?
I mean, Taj Bradley's back out for the 7th inning with 100 pitches. That's something we wouldn't have seen when Rocco was,
For sure.
was the manager.
Yeah.
And, you know, the bullpen's terrible, and he's done, I think, as good a job as you could ask him to do with no real good relievers.
Yeah.
I mean, it's as bad as the bullpen is, just as far as lacking talent and not producing and not getting the job done, it hasn't been quite as much of a dumpster fire as it could be, and I think that's because of how well Shelty, as they like to call him, has kind of, you know, pushed the right buttons.
It was an uninspiring hire because you're just getting the manager from the Pirates, but I didn't hold his record against him. He was the manager of the Pirates. Every manager of the Pirates has a losing record, so I wasn't going to judge by that for sure. And I guess you take a guy who's at least as familiar with being in a situation of a team that's kind of cheap and spinning its wheels. They just showed him on camera, by the way. Not that it's a revelation, but my God, he looks like Joe Madden, the former Cubs and Rays manager, and it kind of seems and acts like him too, which is a good thing. And I think Baldelli, I liken the end of his time and moving on from him to Mike Zimmer. He didn't quite have as much success as Mike Zimmer did with the Vikings, but after several years, it runs its course, right? Mm-hmm. It just feels like it was time to run its course. Meanwhile, since the All-Star break, coming into, again, this Thirsty Thursday afternoon, Twins had lost 4 of the 6 games. The Canaries have won all 5 of theirs heading into Thursday night, all 5 at home on this 9-game homestand to start the second half of the season. As we mentioned last week, they had the least number of home games in the league at the All-Star break, so they'll have the most. 38 out of 49 will be at home. 28 out of 49. And so they're off and running. I mean, they're winning every game. Like last night was 12-6. That's been about the score of every game in these 5 straight wins. I can't say one guy's responsible, but Jabari Henry's been back in the lineup and the all-time home run leader and king for the team and for the league. He's hit 2 home runs. Josh Raywalt has hit 3. He's the USF slugger. And they're looking good.
Yeah, I think getting Jabari back was probably a shot in the arm to the clubhouse. You know, not just – obviously he's producing, but even if he wasn't, I think just getting him back in there, you know, makes everyone feel a little more comfortable. It makes the lineup different for how pitchers have to approach it, just knowing that he's in there versus not. And, you know, Mike Hart's having the best year of his career maybe. And that's a pretty good murderer's row right there with those 3. And a couple of the other new guys, Kiriali, Anthony Hart, some other guys that he's brought in have done a nice job. So I still don't love their pitching staff, and maybe there are some moves Mike can make towards the end as they get closer, if guys become available or whatever. But they're going to make the playoffs. It's not that hard to make the playoffs anymore in the new format. So my hunch, knowing Mike, is that they want to be winning games here and set themselves up as best as they can. But also, it's knowing that you're probably going to be in the playoffs. There's going to be an eye towards what do we need to do over the last month and a half of the season to be good enough to win. Because after what happened last year, Mike doesn't want to just get to the playoffs.
No.
It's not enough to just win the division or just get to the playoffs. He really wants to win that
You got to win the
championship.
whole thing, and they were 3 outs away, up by a couple runs, Game 4 of the finals last year. Not that we have to relive that, but they brought in a new guy named Grady Mee, and he's a little guy, and he was 9th in the lineup. And I don't know where he's from or what he does. He's a little guy. Seems like, just judging by his walk-up music and what a couple players have said in a couple of Canaries social media videos, he, first of all, interesting name, Grady Mee. And he looks like a little guy named Grady Mee. And then his walk-up music sounds, I'm not going to even say the word, but he's bang, bang, bang. Right away, just hit after hit, couple home runs, and he went from 9th in the lineup to now he's batting 2nd in the lineup. Mike likes to tinker, so that's a new addition. And by the way, the pitching in the league is just not very good. That's what I keep getting told by people who know the league, is that everybody's struggling with pitching. So,
well, if you're good, someone's in an organization is going to come get you.
Canaries have top 3 hitting and runs producing, so again, you come out to the birdcage. It's always been this way our whole lives. It's a bandbox. It's a hitter's park. You're going to see a lot of runs produced, and with the Canaries, especially lately, you're going to see a home run, usually early. Can't guarantee it, but it's Christmas in July for Friday and Saturday nights games, special Christmas in July jerseys. Fans can get online on their phones and auction, and you can take the jerseys home. I know you're a big Christmas guy. You dressed for it pretty well, a red and green Hawaiian shirt today. The ballpark will be lit up with Christmas lights. Now they have LED lighting, so I'm looking forward to seeing how the light shows go. Fireworks on Friday. Christmas music played. There will be a Santa Claus, so if you got little kids, Santa Claus on the big yellow chair right when you walk in, get on his lap. Do that whole thing early. And it is bobblehead. It's our 2 bobblehead nights with the Sioux Falls Canaries this year. Okay, last few years, there have been Christmas bobbleheads, and they've been well received. A Cousin Eddie bobblehead from Christmas Vacation. They have had a Christmas bobble belly from Tim Allen in the Santa Claus. Instead of a head, it's his big belly. We have I know you have called A Christmas Story a Werther's hour and a half Werther's original commercial, which is fine. I agree, but we have a bobble. We have a bobble. I know you do, but I think you'd appreciate the bobble we're going to have on Friday night for A Christmas Story.
Is it a leg lamp?
Yes. Did you see that?
No, I just solve that one mystery on my own.
Yeah, it's a bobble leg lamp from A
Does it say
Christmas Story.
Fragile on the side of it?
I think so on the bottom, but they got the lamp, so the sexy leg lamp, center of family controversy for decades. Did mom break the lamp, or did it just fall apart? And then on Saturday night, an Ebenezer Scrooge bobblehead, which I thought was an interesting, I heard it was Scrooged, and I was thinking, Bill Murray? No, it's Ebenezer Scrooge on Saturday night. So it's a good, if you like Christmas, it's a good time to come to the Birdcage this weekend. And then they got a game on Sunday, then the Birds hit the road. And if you're a Jackrabbit fan, well, it's probably too late. You're probably watching this after the game, but the whole football team will be out there tonight. I don't think Dan wanted me to publicize that, but they're going to be hard to miss. 100 plus football players sitting in a section together, going to be hard to miss. I'm going to guess they're going to sport the gear too. So
I'm sure they'll at least be wearing blue or something.
Yeah. So again, we'll talk a little bit later about Jackrabbits, Yotes, starting practice. We'll get a little bit more in-depth about the players they're going to have and what we're looking forward to, what you're looking forward to covering for a month before the actual games start. But we had media days for both the Valley and for the Mountain West and the Bison last week, and Jason Eck, and we covered that pretty well. SEC Media Days. I think it's a 4-day event, like 4 teams a day.
At least 3, yeah.
In Tampa, in the summer. Lucky bastards. Okay. You kind of wanted to go?
I looked into going. I got approved to go, and I just kind of didn't really want to. I mean, between we had just got back from Lincoln, and then I'm going to the cities this weekend.
Oh, you are? That's right.
And, a lot of other stuff going on. And I'm busy, a lot of stuff. And it would have been cool to go there, but then you're working the whole time. And, the reason I wanted to go is because it's not just Kalen. Kalen DeBoer, Josh Heupel, and Clark Lee, Vanderbilt's coach, used to, was on Stig's staff.
Yep.
So there's literally 3 guys there with South Dakota connections. And if I, knew for sure I could, get a sit-down with all 3, I probably would have done it.
Yeah.
But I don't know how feasible that was. And then I have all this stuff to write while I got, SDSU and USD stuff coming up, and Augie and USF in high school, and just would have been a lot. I was watching it on TV, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not sad that I'm not there.
Yeah. I mean, I had a chance for 5 years when I was doing radio in Lincoln to go to Big Ten Media Days in Chicago every year. First year, super cool. Wow, big city, big nice hotel. And look at all these famous people, not just the coaches and players from all these teams, but all the media and, some famous guys who used to play in the Big Ten like Eddie George or Desmond Howard show up. And I did get a chance to interview Eddie. Desmond walked right by our table as we shouted his name. It's okay. But you're kind of stargazed, and it's cool. And then after one go-around, you're like, wow, this is a lot of running around and a lot of work for just to talk to people, just to fly into a city and talk to people.
Some sports writers get off on saying, look at me where I am for media day. I'm not one of those people.
I don't know who you're talking about there. A lot of them maybe. But so...
If I was, I would have gone to SEC Media Day.
So yesterday was, amongst 3 other teams, Alabama Day and Kalen DeBoer Day, and it's clear. Whenever we talk about Kalen DeBoer on this show, I see the numbers. People want to hear about him and them. We've got a lot of Bama fans here, and if I wish I would have gone on the record, like on camera, and predicted what would have happened. Kalen is not by intention, but also by nature, not a guy that's going to give you ball-busting quotes, huge declarations, tough guy stuff, strut around. That's not Kalen. He's going to be a little sanitized and understated, and I could have predicted. Kalen's going to say something understated that a guy like Paul Feinbaum, who's been talking and covering the SEC in Alabama his whole life, is going to go nuts on. And hook, line, and sinker, it happened. Now, first, we've got a clip from Kalen that Cordell got us ready up at the podium when he's in front of the entire national media talking about expectations for Alabama football.
That expectation that you're referring to, and we felt like we righted it wrong a little bit last year compared to the year before with some of the things we accomplished, but we also understand we fell short of what our expectations are internally. And so, every area of the program just has to continue to improve.
So there Kalen was. He went on to say somewhere else, basically, when it comes to the national championship, he said, I know that's a part of what has happened, what happens in this program, so I wouldn't doubt that's the case. I'm not focused on that. When he was asked about a national championship, he actually said the words that everybody would take out of context. I'm not focused on that. I'm focused on helping the program be the best and trying to bring out the best and raise the level of everyone around me to maximize what we're capable of doing every day. I mean, he said that when he was at USF all the time. Tom Osborne would say that kind of stuff all the time. John Stiegelmeier says that kind of stuff. But, the journey, not the destination, whatever. We've got high expectations. But he said, I'm not focused on that when specifically asked about the national championship. So, naturally, a guy like Paul Feinbaum went kind of nuclear and said he doesn't think words matter at media days, but they do matter for this reason, because you're trying to raise money to buy players nowadays. You need momentum. You need to ultimately win. And Kalen DeBoer, what Kalen DeBoer did yesterday and created is not helping. He's not going to have momentum. Here's another thing Paul Feinbaum said, and then we'll get to Zim's reaction.
Courtney, this fan base is not going to be happy with tempered expectations and winning 8 or 9 games and talking about next year. And I know that's what the theme is. That's what the conversation is, especially without a starting quarterback being named. But that's not Alabama football. It never has been. This is a program that started long before Nick Saban. It's had a number of national championship coaches. The coach in the 60s and 70s was Bear Bryant. When he retired, he was the greatest coach in college football history. Saban replicated that. So they don't want to hear, and I know how Jordan feels because we've had these conversations, they don't want to hear that, no, this team could win 8 games. But in the era of the portal, NIL, you can't make excuses for not having the right pieces in part. We know what Lane Kiffin has done at LSU. He completely transformed that roster, and that's what Alabama fans expect out of Kalen DeBoer.
Okay. What do you make of all this? That Kalen, you can take it out of context and said they're not focused on a national championship, when I don't think that's really what he meant.
Yeah, I mean, that's the first time I heard that, and I suppose my first reaction was, oh, is that? I'm sure that got taken a certain way.
Yes, it did.
My reaction wasn't, oh, Kalen's stupid for saying that, because I know him and I know what he meant. But knowing how Bama fans are,
yes, knowing
what the reaction to him has been through the first couple of years, I think most Bama fans are still Team Kalen, but it's certainly not unanimous. Oh, no. And most of the people that are Team Kalen are kind of like, well, we're giving you a chance, but it hasn't been good enough so far. I think everybody's waiting for it to get better, and hearing him say that might rub those people the wrong way. Having said that, is that phrase that he used really much different than the whole 1-0 thing that Stig's teams used to beat us over the head with all the time? Like, we're not thinking about December and January. We're thinking about September 7th, or we're thinking about 1-0 every week, 1-0 every week. It's kind of the same sort of thing. So, and also, Paul Feinbaum hates Kalen. I mean, that's pretty obvious to me. So I don't really take any of his criticisms of Kalen seriously.
For sure. And
can I just say, I hate Paul Feinbaum.
Cordell hates Paul Feinbaum.
Every time I see that guy, I just think he looks like a weasel.
Well, he does.
That doesn't help his cause.
He doesn't come across to me as terribly genuine a lot of times. I don't mind. Exactly. I don't mind a shitty take or a take that I disagree with if I get the sense that that's what this guy really thinks. That's what he believes. When it's just an obvious attempt for clicks or trying to go viral, trying to stir the pot, I have no use for that.
I think Kalen is very cognizant of Alabama fans' demands and
he's cognizant of everything.
So
Kalen is a very smart and aware and eyes open guy. I mean, yes, he's narrow focused on his job and what he has to do, but he's not one of those coaches that is so buried in football that he's oblivious to everything else. He knows exactly what's going on around him. I promise you that.
I mean, he's had a pair of, I believe, 2 4-loss seasons, but he won 11 last year.
Won a playoff game.
But won a playoff game. But the 38-3 loss to Indiana, the eventual national champion, just left a mark. So what if they were the eventual national champion? Is what most Bama fans will say, and I'll say that as well. That left a mark. And but we've had this discussion before, but it's been a while, and the season's about to start. We're going to get to the preseason poll. This is a different world from 3 or 4 years ago when Nick Saban was the coach. It's an NIL world where I'm sure Alabama's up there in the top 10, top 20 in NIL money, but it's a much more
game.
It's a tie game, 1-1 in the 8th, Twins. It's a much more crowded house. It's much tougher to win. And you know who recognizes that? And we've pointed this out before. The Alabama administration.
Yeah.
Michigan badly wanted him to be the coach, and even Paul Feinbaum will acknowledge that meant it was worth it to throw enough money at Kalen to make him a top 5 paid coach, $12.5 million a year, a $70 million buyout, which means it's going to be really tough to pry him away, even if they're really shitty this season.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because the boosters are having a hard enough time keeping up with NIL money.
Right.
So now you'd have a coach to worry about that you don't really like. So, but it's just it's a different day.
Yeah, I wonder.
It's not Saban's day.
What it would be like in Alabama right now if we weren't in this free agency paying players NIL era. Because on the one hand, you could say if Kalen had gone 9-4 and 11-4 in his first 2 years at Alabama, and the circumstances were different, he might be on the hot seat already. I think that's legitimate to say. On the other hand, if it were the old situation where we didn't have this NIL era in free agency, he wouldn't have gone 9-4 and 11-4 in his first 2 years. Indiana wouldn't be the national champion right now. Right. Alabama would, and all these SEC schools would still have this sort of monopoly on everything that they had before. That's why, I mean, I'm not trying to take anything away from Nick Saban or, any of the other, Kirby Smart, any of the other great coaches that were winning in the pre-NIL era. But NIL has clearly leveled the playing field. It has clearly brought a ton more parity. That's why we have a bigger playoff now. We have to, because this is more like the NFL now. We didn't have to have a big playoff before because we knew there were only 4 or 5 teams that were really legitimate national championship contenders. It's not like that anymore. So it'd be fun to see how Kalen would have done if he had the same circumstances that Saban did.
Yeah.
But it's different now, and I think it's a credit to Alabama's administration that they recognize that. That doesn't make it any easier for Kalen. I know he's, I don't want to say feeling the heat or anything, but like I said, he knows exactly what he got into. He knows what the expectations are. He knows what Nick Saban accomplished, and he wants to do it. I just, it's a weird situation for me because I'm rooting for him personally, and I want him to do well, but I want him to do well doing it his way,
Yeah.
I don't want to see Kalen have to scramble or try to change the way he's doing things because he's trying to catch up or whatever, and I'm not saying that's what he's doing. I just would love to see him succeed the same way he did at USF, just building a program and trusting his guys and doing it the right way.
Oddly enough, in Lincoln, Nebraska, I was there for a Husker game last year, and on my Uber ride into downtown to go tailgate, my Lyft driver, Uber, was an Alabama fan, a guy from Alabama who had moved to Nebraska. What do you think about Kalen DeBoer? And this is he had a Southern accent, didn't seem like a crazy person, seemed like a nice guy from the South. He just said, I don't know. I'm like, well, he didn't even want to talk about it. I'm like, and this was before their season ended, before we knew they were going to end up I don't know. He just seems too nice. We're used to Saban. We're used to national titles. I don't know what to tell you.
I hear that a lot. I'm sick of hearing about what a nice guy he is. I want a prick like Saban.
Yeah.
Well,
he didn't
I don't think that can work now.
Yeah, right.
But I have heard that.
Yeah.
I have heard people say that.
Yeah.
Saban won because he was an asshole. Well, Saban was able to be a dictator because of the way college football was set up then. And that's why he got out.
Yeah.
Because he knew he wasn't going to be able to do that anymore.
Yes. Fine point. And by the way, all Kalen has to do to change that narrative is to win.
Right.
Then they're fine. Then they're fine with Kalen's personality, his even-keeled, humane personality. Of course, you could look at the other side of that. Remember, Bo Pelini in Nebraska was such a prick that he won 9 or 10 games every year and got fired. And had he been, had he been a nicer guy, would they have won as many games? Had he been a more stable human, would they have won more games? Perhaps, but we'll never know. So, coming into this year, though, the expectations, wow, not high for Alabama by Alabama standards. Georgia's picked to win the SEC. Then it goes Texas, Ole Miss, A&M, and Alabama 5th. That just feels weird. Alabama picked to finish 5th in the SEC. By the way, they're just ahead of Oklahoma and LSU. Josh Heupel in Tennessee right in the middle at 8. If you're wondering where Clark, Lee, and Vanderbilt, after an outstanding season, they went to one of the premier non-playoff bowl games last year on New Year's Day.
Lost to Mark Gronowski.
And Iowa, yeah. I think Vandy won 11 games. They are picked to finish 13th. A lot of these polls feel like they're determined by if you have a good starting quarterback coming back or not. We talked about this with the Valley last week. So, and Vandy doesn't. Finally, what's his
Diego
face?
Pava.
Diego Pavio's not there anymore. But Alabama's over-under, according to DraftKings, 8.5. 8.5 out of 12. Which, so this is not the NFL, so it's not like going 500, but it still feels pretty low. It's their lowest preseason win-loss total since 2008.
Ty Simpson had a really good year, and he moved on.
Yeah.
Proctor, their big offensive lineman, moved on. They lost some really good players in their defense. But I haven't fully dove into their roster yet. In other words, I haven't played a franchise on the college football video game yet. That's how I memorize Kalen's roster every year.
Interactive way.
Right. But I do know they have a quarterback competition with Austin Mack returning. I think he's a redshirt junior, and Keelan Russell, the freshman. He's a redshirt freshman. He was a 5-star coming out of Texas, and they liked him last year. Yeah. And he was in the mix with Ty Simpson. And I kind of knew Ty Simpson was probably going to win that job. But this year, I'm not getting any indication on who's the favorite there. It seems like it's going to be a heated battle right down to the wire. I know Kalen really likes Austin Mack. I think he actually recruited him originally to Washington and brought him with. But Keelan Russell is, like I said, a 5-star from Texas. I mean, I did read over the last couple of days. I don't know if it was at Media Days, but Saban basically came out and said Keelan Russell should be the guy. Like, that dude's legit.
Oh.
So
note to Kalen, just play Keelan, because Saban says you should.
Right.
That'll help. That'll help if you care about your image.
They got to run the ball.
Yeah.
I mean, their running game was really
Terrible.
bad last year.
Terrible.
And I don't know what their running back situation is. Like I said, they lost their best offensive lineman. I'm sure they just reload with other great ones every year in a place like Alabama.
Yeah.
But that's going to be the big key. Can they figure out how to run the ball? And, Ryan Grubb used to be an offensive line coach, used to be a run game coordinator. I would hope, I would trust that that's something that they've been working on all offseason and that they're going to figure out.
Quarterback is their big topic, and a good an analyst that was opposite Paul Feinbaum in the comments you heard on ESPN yesterday had a great line about these two. Do you want a game manager, which Austin Mack would be? He's been in Kalen's system in Washington and Alabama, played a little in the Rose Bowl last year. Or do you want a game changer? Game manager would be Mack. Russell would be the game changer, but Russell with youth and great athletic ability, sometimes that means early mistakes. And so some people feel like, well, just play the veteran early, and then at some point when you feel like it, or if he struggles, then put in Keelan Russell when you need the game changer. I look at the schedule and I think if Keelan Russell's the better quarterback with more upside, which it certainly sounds like he is, without having seen either of these guys really play, what do I know? But look at this. East Carolina at Kentucky, Florida State at home. I know the Seminoles beat Alabama last year. They're not very good, and Alabama should get revenge. South Carolina at home. Close game in South Carolina last year. I mean, but this is bottom-feeding SEC. Mississippi State, one of the worst teams in the SEC. That's 5-0. They should be 5-0 before they play Georgia at home. Georgia, who Kalen's 2-1 against and 2-0 in the regular season. Then that gets tough. You go at Tennessee, Texas A&M at home, at LSU, at Vandy, okay? And you get Chattanooga and Auburn to finish the year. My point is that is not a murderer's row. Play the young kid. Let him take his lumps. You still should win the games. And then maybe he'll be in good form when you hit that tough stretch.
It might depend on how good that running game is. If Kalen and Grubb feel really good about the running game, and I don't know why they would necessarily unless something really changes, then maybe you go with that game manager because you can rely on your running game. But if that looks like it's going to be tough sledding again, then don't you want the more explosive guy who can make plays with his feet, who can create on his own? Yeah. I mean, maybe that'll determine it too.
By the way, Kalen DeBoer, why it's partly tough to just dismiss him, 7-2 in his time at Washington and Alabama against the top 10. 7-2. And 3-1 at Alabama against top 10 teams. I guess Georgia wasn't one when they lost to Georgia in the SEC championship game. All right, let's bring it home to here. We had our media days. We talked about them. And now we have first practices next week. And you'll be there. Are you going to be at both?
Yep.
Okay, back-to-back days?
I think it's USD Wednesday, SDSU Thursday. I'm actually going to SDSU on Tuesday, too, because they're having the groundbreaking for their new soccer stadium. So that's on Tuesday. But, practice starts already. I mean, we always joke about it after the 4th of July, and, here we are. A couple weeks of goofing around, and now it starts. I'm looking forward to it. It's always one of my favorite days of the year. I'm kind of a football dork in that it's fun for me to just watch them practice. To go and the first couple days are – I mean, it's a little different now. The NCAA over the last few years has gradually allowed you to do a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more to now where it's almost like the NFL, where it's kind of year-round. The coaches are allowed to be around them a little bit more. They're able to do more stuff. So it's not as much – it used to kind of be the first couple days did feel like a first day. Kind of easing into it, a lot of individual stuff, a lot of just drills, almost even like calisthenics kind of stuff. Now they can kind of get right to, yes, they'll have indie sessions like they always do, but on the first day of practice, they will be running plays. They will be doing live, well, not necessarily live, but they will be
live-ish.
Yeah, going over their actual schemes. So it's fun to watch. Every year there's always question marks, and they're always different. USD, obviously, everyone's going to be talking about the quarterback. When I'm there on Wednesday, I'll probably spend almost all my time watching the quarterbacks because that is a legit, real, like sometimes, there's a quarterback competition, but you kind of feel like you know who's probably going to be the guy.
Yeah.
We have no idea here.
Yeah.
And I don't get any indication from Matt Vitztham that he's leaning in any direction. He said in the spring, there's 3 guys. They all 3 have an equal chance. All 3 do good things, and they've been even all through the spring. And he said, even if one guy had been great in spring, like way better than the other 2, and that didn't happen, but even if it had, that wouldn't have made the decision. He wasn't going to name a starting quarterback in April. They're going to come back in the fall and get right to it. And he kind of said the same thing to us at Media Day last week. We're looking forward to seeing what these guys do. It's going to be a battle. Did he give you a time frame on when he said he wanted to, because sometimes it's certainly before that, once you get to game week, where you start prepping for whoever your first opponent is. In their case, it's Central Connecticut, I believe. So we'll see how long it takes him.
I'd have to go back to, I did ask him. Look at that's a producer. Cordell remembers.
Well, so that means those first few practices are going to be extremely important for those quarterbacks. I mean, every single rep is going to be evaluated, and I don't know who I think it's going to be. There's Cremascoli's coming back. He's a senior who was backing up Aiden Bauman. Proctor, I think, is the transfer, is a 1-year guy. When Travis Johansson was still the coach, I kind of got the sense from Travis that he maybe favored Proctor a little bit. He never said that. That was just kind of my interpretation. But Travis is gone now, and Vitztham has not given me any hint like that.
Yeah.
And then there's the freshman. I can't remember his name.
I can't either.
It's a long name. That's why I don't remember it.
Gone back and listened to.
Yeah.
Oh, my jet ski. I remember that because I asked Matt.
Majewski
It's my jet ski. That's what.
That's how it's pronounced.
Vitztham told us. That's easy. My jet ski.
Like a jet ski.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But it's that's right. My first question for Vitztham last week was almost, how's your jet ski? Hoping he would say, what, my jet ski?
Okay.
Anyway.
Well, that will be easy to remember.
Abbott and Costello.
But they clearly are really high on him.
Yes.
So
he sounds, we're just parsing words. Sounds like the most upside guy.
Yeah, I mean, there are guys you bring in that you're like, okay, this guy, maybe he'll have to play sometimes. And then there's guys that they're like, yes, we see this guy as a future starting quarterback. He's one of those guys. Is
he now? We don't know.
Right.
But that's what will make practice immediately intriguing. You'll have stories. Trey Houchin is our USD football guy from the Mitchell Republic. They'll be there. Look for that stuff at SiouxFallsLive.com. Another interesting thing from the Yotes that I heard during Media Day, for one, just one final thing about quarterback, is what Vitztham said. You asked him what he's looking for, and so did I. That will determine this. And I don't think this was just lip service or coach speak. He basically said the little things that won't get them into trouble, specifically making the right checks at the line of scrimmage to make the right play call before the ball is snapped, or checking down in a situation that's the correct decision. He had one other one as well. That was just kind of, and especially those kinds of things on third down, which is kind of tough to replicate in practice, but they try. It's the critical, doing the little things right that prevent big mistakes in big situations.
Well, when you look at USD's offense, that running back room is just absolutely loaded.
Yeah.
So there shouldn't be a lot of pressure on whoever the quarterback is. And their offensive line, I think, is going to be pretty good too. So
he's big. Vitz is big on the offensive line.
Yeah. So whoever wins the job, I can see it. If I'm the coach, I'm thinking, just don't screw it up. We got Charles Pierre and Keandre Jones-Logan and the white guy, I can't remember his name, that came from Texas. They are really, really, really deep there. They're going to be able to run the football. So just don't screw it up. Don't throw interceptions. Don't turn the ball over. Make the right checks and reads. Hand it off to Charles Pierre. And when we have third and long on occasion, complete that pass.
Yeah.
Aiden Bauman, as great a quarterback as he was, he never had a 3,000-yard season. I mean, when things were going good for USD, he was throwing the ball between 15 and 25 times. They were not throwing the ball 40 times a game. And there's no reason to think they can't do that same thing. And if that's the kind of offense you have, then there isn't this oh, God, we need our quarterback to carry us.
Right.
They just need a quarterback to not screw up. And if he can make plays in addition, all the better.
Yeah, and excellent point Vitztham made to illuminate the start of the season, because remember, they were 0-2 last year. They lost at Lamar, same game that they lost Charles Pierre. And then they started 2-3, and at one point they were 5-4 after their loss to Illinois
Barely
State.
beat Northern Colorado. Kind of got
Yeah.
lucky to win that. Could have changed their whole season.
Right. 0-2, 2-3, and barely beating a terrible Northern Colorado team. But part, not all, but part of the equation was, as Vitz has mentioned every time he's had a microphone, that spring football season, 2025, was when you could still, there was a spring portal window, and you could just raid teams in the middle of, and he said Travis Johansson wouldn't be at some practices because he was dealing with a player leaving that he didn't know was going to leave until that morning because, and it was just chaos. And he said, so we get to field a team that actually practiced together in the spring and again in the summer.
Right.
So they feel like they can get off to a better start. They got Central Connecticut. Of course, they're going to go to Boise State. They've got a tough, we've all determined this is a tough Mo Valley schedule. But I think if they get off
Their
to a better
non-conference
start.
schedule's pretty tough.
Yeah.
Central Connecticut's not a dog.
Right.
They should beat them, but
yeah.
they're not a patsy.
But they should play better. They should look better early on, and that could help their cause. And by the way, the defensive representative that they had at Media Day last week, I just went back and listened to this today. You and Marcus asking them questions, which is up there on the happy hour page at Sioux Falls Live. Nathan Laperi, defensive lineman, this is the kind of things kids will say sometimes, and because it's Mo Valley and because it's the Coyotes, not a whole lot of people notice. But I noticed today, he's like, he said, I think we could be not just the best defense in the Mo Valley, but the best in the country. I'm sure he doesn't have a high degree of expertise on all the other defenses in some of the other leagues or even the Valley. But, it's a declaration that if an Alabama player said that at SEC Media Days, people would be like, whoa!
Right. I do remember clocking that as like, okay, that's maybe a little much. But
they've been really good defense.
And there's nothing wrong with setting that as the standard. I mean,
yeah. So, well, they had a great defense last year. They have a great defensive lineman in all-leaguer and Chris Dixon, who's coming back up front. And Matt feels really good about both lines, both offensive and defensive lines.
I think the Yotes are going to be good. I get the sense some of the fans are kind of like, why is everyone picking the Jacks, and why aren't we getting picked? Well, because you lost a great starting quarterback and you have your third coach in 3 years.
Yeah.
But nobody thinks you're going to suck.
Right.
The Valley's good. Just because you got picked third or fourth or fifth in the Valley doesn't mean people are saying that you're going to go 5-7.
And some people you go by the schedule. You actually go through wins and losses.
But I expect USD to be a playoff team.
Yes, absolutely.
And I will not be surprised if they're a 9 or 10 win team.
Yeah.
Like I said, I do think SDSU deserves to be there's a reason they were the overwhelming number one pick. They have the most talent coming back. But that 2 through 6, you could throw those names in a hat and
So the Jacks, meanwhile, they're number one, and they've got the returning quarterback, and so we're still tied at 1 in the top of the ninth, watching the Twins in real time, and they nearly hit a home run with 2 outs in the top of the ninth to take a 2-1 lead. That was Cody Clemens, but it went to the warning track and was caught. So we go mid-9 tied at 1, trying to split the Indians.
Guardians, how dare you?
God, I keep this is fourth time in the last 3 weeks. I can't stop. I don't know. How long has it been? 5 years? Whatever.
I have no idea.
I'm not doing that as a protest. I literally just keep forgetting that they're the Guardians. They're the Indians to me. It's not a protest. Okay, so we know who the quarterback is with the Jacks, which means that immediately makes them from a preseason, I'm going to practice to check this team out, angle, not as sexy of a team. But what are you very curious to see at their first practice and subsequent?
Maybe this will sound boring, but the offensive and defensive lines. They got a lot of guys back on the offensive line, but if you remember at the end of last year, they were moving guys around because they weren't happy with how the offensive line was producing. I'm interested to see how they decide to play that out, how much competition there is there, because there's a lot of guys who played but aren't necessarily, like Quentin Christensen is locked in as the left tackle. We know that. But some of those other spots, how up for grabs are they? Where's Shane Willenbring going to play? Some of these other guys. That's something I'll be keeping an eye on. And the defensive line. We've talked about it ad nauseum. When this team was winning national championships, they were 8 to 10 deep on the defensive line. Last year, through a combination of injuries and just not being as deep, they weren't able to do that, and you saw what happened. They weren't as good. They gave up 50 points to Montana in the playoffs. This is a team that gave up 100 points the entire season in 2023. So that was a big point of emphasis for Dan Jackson. I do think there's a lot of depth there. They brought in Carter Sitzman, a stud pass rusher from Wayne State. They brought in some defensive tackle from Minnesota State Moorhead. I mean, there's just and Reese Kirschenman comes back from injury. They're a lot deeper on the defensive line. I'm interested to see how that goes. How deep can they be? You know, can they be 8 to 10 deep like they were in the heyday? And then there's going to be competition at other spots where, like wide receiver, tight end, linebacker. Those aren't question marks per se because there's so much depth. But who's going to play? Who's going to start?
Yeah.
I mean, all three of their starting linebackers are back, but they brought in Jess Kirchhoff, the NSIC Player of the Year, and everyone's raving about him. So what that tells me is that the three returning starters have to win their job again. There's other guys.
Wow.
There's Bryce Johnson is still there. Kyton Fife is still there. There's all these guys that are, like I said, there's three starting linebackers coming back, and I think all three of those guys still have to win their job. And then, like, wide receiver, you got, Lofton Ogroski comes back, and Jack Smith took a big step up.
Thank you.
Well, Graham Goring's still there, and Sammy Dressy and
there's a kid named Landon
Delaney. Reese, I think at Osgood, they transfer from Iowa.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just one after another, and the same thing at tight end. Just so much depth there. And then I think at running back, that position, last year they had Julius Loffridge, a senior who was very good but was not explosive.
Not a home run.
Yeah, he was kind of a
hitter.
A ram, battering ram sort of guy.
And I'll just interject. After so many games, are like, where are the explosive plays? Where are the explosive plays? And Dan Jackson would say, most of the times, he tries to be very nice and not call anybody out. But, some plays a lineman misses a block, or perhaps the running back missed a hole, didn't know where to go.
Mm-hmm. Well, so it was Julius Loffridge, a senior who was very good but not explosive, and then three freshmen who were freshmen. They were still figuring it out. Well, all three of those guys are back. How explosive are they going to be? And then you bring in Ramon McKinney, the transfer from Division II, was a 1,000-yard guy. How explosive is he going to be? Is he, Angel Johnson, Amar Johnson good? I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see. But everyone seemed to be pretty impressed with what they saw in the summer. So that'll be a position to keep an eye on too.
Yeah. Well,
backup quarterback. There's not a competition for QB1, but there's certainly a competition for QB2. Jack Henry's clearly better than he was last year. He's much more ready to go. But they bring in I forget the guy's name, but the transfer from Northern Illinois.
Yeah.
And he started some games at the FBS level. He didn't come here to be the third stringer. So that'll be interesting to watch.
Don't worry, folks. We'll know all the names by the end of next month.
I just wrote it down today.
The white guy running back from Texas.
I'm getting old. I don't remember.
We're gonna get.
Does not work
I
as well
know.
as
We're gonna get. Somebody's gonna slam us for that. That's okay. We're still.
Holtz.
We're in preseason form too. But so I was gonna mention receivers as like my number one, just to be incredibly.
Didn't even mention Jace Woods, the freshman coming in from Washington.
Oh my God! I mean, okay. Yeah. Yes, and I think he's ready. He's got the body and the maturity that's ready to play college football right now.
His brother got an offer from Ohio State today.
His brother, Noah Woods, basketball, right?
Yeah. Ohio State, Wisconsin, and Nebraska so far.
Yeah. We knew the Cyclones would be coming after both the Huskers and the Hawkeyes were.
No, Ohio State.
Ohio State. Yeah. Well, I'm sure.
I'm sure TJ's on them too.
I'm sure TJ's on them as well. So that's crazy. But Jace Woods just add to that room. I mean, it sounds, I don't know, superficial or whatever, but I just think receivers that's a glitzy position, and I think there's going to be a lot of glitz there. I mean, I'll go out on a limb. Running back spot is unproven when it comes to home run hitters, and that was a problem last year, and that hurt the explosive run game, but it also hurt, to a degree, a chance of an explosive pass game, and certainly so did, once Chase Mason was hurt. But one of those games Chase Mason did not play was a breakout play right away, right at the start of the game for Jack Smith from Lincoln. He has some serious wheels, and we saw it over and over again, a bunch of 60, 70, 80-yard touchdowns at Lincoln, just catching like bubble screens or tunnel screens. And then Landon Delaney didn't even hit the field, and we saw him, he's the fastest guy in the state, literally a state track champion. We saw 60, 70, 80-yard touchdowns from him in high school. Usually at SDSU, if they're doing that in Class AAA in South Dakota, they're going to be doing it at South Dakota State. Griffin Wilde did that a while back. I mean, go back to these aren't receivers, but Taryn Christian, Austin Sumner usually translates to a high level when they were that high level at the highest level high school here. I can't wait to see what more Jack Smith has up his sleeve. But, of course, at the top of the list is Lofton Ogroski. He emerged as a freshman last year as the best in that group.
2 years ago as a freshman. Last
2
year
years?
was kind of supposed to be his breakout year, and then he got hurt.
He was a sophomore last year? Okay.
Yeah.
Forgive me.
Well, he played as a true freshman in 24.
Okay.
And that was when it was kind of like, geez, this guy's
Yeah.
pretty good.
Yeah.
And then last year he got hurt
And he
early
was
in the
hurt.
season and then got hurt again right when he came back.
So I'm not going to declare like, hey, South Dakota State's going to win the national title. I think they're the likeliest to win. I would agree with being them the preseason favorite in the Mo Valley. Certainly not predicting a primrose path. But I expect a lot of big offense this year. They're going to have a lot of explosive plays. They're going to be way more fun to watch and full of more highlights, long touchdowns and long plays. And, of course, some of them will come from the feet of Chase Mason this year. I just think with those rooms and the offensive line slightly improved, it's just expect a lot of wow out of SDSU football this year. So a guy who made this FBS endeavor and Division I and the Summit League and the Summit League basketball tournament endeavor all possible, these kinds of things that we talk about for the Jacks and the Yotes, passed away on Saturday. Patrick and Lally covered it right here in these seats on Monday, on our Monday show. But, a quick moment from you just to get your own words about T. Denny Sanford dying at 90. And we went through the good and the bad and the controversial about T. Denny and his influence on the community, how he made all his money, and some investigations into potential criminal activity late in his life that didn't end up being going to court. But specifically the sports, your own thoughts as you saw this all unfold right here as a sports writer here in Sioux Falls the last 25 years.
Well, Sanford Pentagon, Denny Sanford Premier Center, the Sanford International, the Sanford Jackrabbit Athletic Complex, the Sanford Coyote Sports Center. I'm sure I'm missing several.
Yeah.
That's really all you need to say.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy funded everything.
Yeah.
Would that money have come from somewhere else if he wasn't there? I don't know. But to say that he had an impact on the sports community here would obviously be a pretty big understatement.
Yeah, I've got a few statements, and this is the forum I'll choose to read them from the ADs at USD and SDSU and Augie. John Schemmel wrote me that it's impossible to look at the campus of USD and really the entire state of South Dakota and not see Mr. Sanford's generosity staring right back at you. It is unmatched. His impact on Coyote athletics is felt by all our student athletes and coaches every day. We, the Summit League, have the best mid-major conference basketball tournament in the country because of him. There aren't enough words I could say to appropriately recognize and honor his legacy! ! I'm just endlessly grateful to him, and I know my life in South Dakota, personally and professionally, is a hell of a lot better because of him. And Justin Sell wrote back to me as well later in the day, and here are Justin Sell's own words. Denny had a tremendous impact on us at SDSU, but more importantly, he made this entire state better and helped make us think differently about what we should aspire to be. I think there's some truth in that.
I would give a lot of that credit to Kelby Krabbenhoff, too. I think he was, in a lot of ways, the one who had the vision and was able to get the money from Denny Sanford to go to a lot of those things.
Yeah, for sure. Because sometimes you get confused, because I looked a bunch of this up. Like, some of these big projects that have his name on him, sports-wise and otherwise, were funded directly by him, and some of them were funded through Sanford Health, which always was kind of funded by him. But you're right. I'll never forget Kelby when Great Shots opened, another thing not possible without Denny Sanford, out there in the Sanford Sports Complex, the Topgolf. Groundbreaking. Johnny Bench was there, but I remember interviewing Kelby and asking him about Augustana, because Kelby was a big Augustana proponent. Denny was kind of a booster, and I said, "Well, do you think Augie's going to go Division I, or do you feel strongly they would compete well? Is there a big movement?" And Kelby was kind of like, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, what about the money?" And he said, "You're talking to a guy who convinced another guy to spend $500 million on a healthcare system." Well, we talked to Josh Morton yesterday, And Josh said, Denny has meant everything to Augustana as well. The lead gift and where they started with the Midco Arena, that became their crown jewel, that led to their division. It started with Denny, and then they went for others for the money. And he said he had a meeting with Stephanie Herseth-Sandlin, with Pam Holman, the vice president, and Josh. And at the meeting, they gave Denny a list of options, a menu of things that they're looking to, big projects at Augie that what looks good to you that you'd like to help. And Division I hockey, his eyes lit up. So there you go from Augie. Okay, we're out of time, literally out of time. You enjoyed the Cordell, the countdowns. Still 1-1 in the ninth, so we'll find out if the Twins won tomorrow. But that's the rest of our show. That's the end of our shows for the week. Okay, fine. Thanks for coming by the Orion.
When Cordell said you have 3 minutes?
I did.
8 minutes ago?
We're practicing for when we are on.
I wonder why you're never on time for anything.
We're getting better, though. This is like just a minute over. We're practicing for when we're going to be on TV here on KSFL very soon.
Go great.
It will. Thank you, Zim. Thank you, John Oppold and the Orion Pub. Thank you, Cordell. Cheers.
Why are you laughing?
That was a terrible outro.
You.
Casino round drinks?
Yes.